time for overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
3-2 pitch. Fastball belted, deep right. Long gone.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
It's hour number 2, Monday edition of Overtime. Welcome back into the show. It's Bert Ramin. You can yell at me on Twitter at any time at BertESPN, or if you're feeling particularly frisky, let's go a few rounds. 605-362-3776. Although I don't have anything bad to say about the Minnesota Vikings because they keep on winning. My mouth is shut. My lips are zipped. And Minnesota somehow 11-2 on the year. But I will, next segment, cautiously approach the fact that you, Vikings fans out there, should consider Sam Darnold to be your starting quarterback next season. I'm on the train. I'm not saying I'm toot all aboard, let's go, but maybe we should start putting some respect behind Sam Darnold and saying maybe he should be given another opportunity to be the starter next year, and maybe you embrace that Packers model and let J.J. McCarthy sit, rest, wait, learn, and get to be pretty darn good before he has to be out there on the football field in the very young portion of his career. Is it doable? Yes. Is it realistic? Maybe. Daniel Jones also in the fold, another option there. But Sam Darnold, proven commodity, and you wonder what kind of team-friendly deal he might be willing to take, considering the Minnesota Vikings opened up the door, 1 year, $10 million deal to be the guy this year. Prove yourself, come on in, revitalize your career. He could go out and get paid a lot more money elsewhere. That's the biggest question mark, is what does Sam Darnold want? Does he want to stay in Minnesota, be the guy potentially long-term for Minnesota, or does he want to go somewhere else and get a boatload of money to try to rekindle his career in Vegas? A couple other landing spots come to mind, maybe Tennessee, other places. Sam Darnold will have other callers outside of Minnesota. We'll talk about him and the Minnesota Vikings next year, coming up next segment on the show. Still to come also, our conversation weekly with USD Coyote head football coach Bob Nielson. We'll be talking with Coach Bob around 12:40 this afternoon. NFL football yesterday, those aforementioned Minnesota Vikings keep on winning. Sam Darnold, a career high 5 touchdown passes.
3rd and 8. Minnesota 6 of 11 on 3rd down. Sam under a lot of pressure. How'd you get away from that? Now he throws deep. Justin wide open. Caught. Touchdown!
That's the always enthusiastic Paul Allen on the K-Fan call. 42-21 the final. Was a closer game than that for most of the game, but Atlanta bested by the Vikings. Minnesota 11-2. The Kirk Cousins-led Falcons have lost 4 games in a row, 6-7, their record now on the season. Carolina and Philadelphia from Philly. The Panthers continue to play good football. They had a drop touchdown pass late, and they lose to the Eagles 22-16. Philly is 11-2. Pittsburgh Steelers playing great football. Another double-digit win season, and fan favorite tight end Pat Freiermuth getting into the end zone once again.
Wilson gets the snap, back looking to fire over the middle of the field, and it is complete. It is a touchdown. Pittsburgh Steelers. Pat Freiermuth makes the reception and boots the ball up into the stands here at Acrisure Stadium.
WDVE with the call there. Pittsburgh all over Cleveland 27-14. The Steelers are 10-3. Seattle and Arizona battle for the top spot in that division. Seahawks slam the door and dominate the Cardinals yesterday.
3 receivers near side. Geno has time. He's going to throw in the near side corner. JSN has the touchdown! Seahawks!
That was the first Seahawk touchdown of the day. A big game for one Zach Charbonnet, as the Seahawks are 8-5, 30-18 the final. The Cardinals in some trouble, 6-7 on the season. That audio courtesy of KIRO. Buffalo Bills, really good football team. The Los Angeles Rams, a better football team yesterday.
Stafford from the shotgun, looking left, throws right, receiver screen, caught, blocked, touchdown Puka Nacua, touchdown LA, with
1:54 remaining.
Puka Nacua, pretty impressive. 44-42, the final. Rams win it in an absolute score slugfest. 7-6, the record for LA. The Bills fall down to 10-3. That audio courtesy of ESPN 710 LA. The Chicago Bears remain very far away from winning football games. Isaac Guerrero and the Niners pour it on 38-13 over the visiting Bears.
They changed ends to start the fourth quarter, trying to get in the south end zone. Handoff to Guerrero. Touchdown! San Francisco!
KNBR on the call there, 38-13. Niners remain in the playoff hunt for now with a record of 6-7. Bears just about done. Pack it up. We'll see you next year. 4-9, the record for Chicago. Still looking for their first win away from Soldier Field. Last night, the Chargers looked like they might be handing the Chiefs a loss for just the second time this season. But of course, the Chiefs are well versed in playing close football games. They get the job done. They doink it off the upright, but they actually doinked it in the upright to win the game 19-17. Chiefs are 12-1 and AFC West champs.
It's our first goal every single year to win the AFC West, and it's a great division where a lot of rivalries, where everybody's playing each other tough, and I mean 3 teams are going to probably make the playoffs. I mean that speaks to the division that we play in, and so to be able to win this division, to gain another game in the playoff picture, it was an important game for us against a really good football team. We found a way to get a win, but now we got to keep building if we want to get to our ultimate goal.
That's Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City 12-1. The Chargers are 8-5. Monday Night Football tonight. Bengals at the Cowboys, 7:15 on both ESPN and ABC. Bengals are a 4.5-point road favorite in the game. College football championship weekend is behind us. Boise State over UNLV 21-7. Army all over Tulane 35-14. Those games were Friday. Saturday, Oregon over Penn State 45-37. SMU lost on a last-second long field goal to Clemson 34-31. Iowa State did not hang tough against Arizona State. Cam Scattervoo and the Sun Devils run over the Cyclones 45-19. And it took overtime to settle the slate between Georgia and Texas in the SEC title game.
Back under center. Hand it to Etienne. Straight ahead. Touchdown. Touchdown. Dogs are SEC champions. Dogs have won it.
And the Georgia Bulldogs did win the SEC. They do have an injury concern. Apparently a UCL elbow injury for starter Carson Beck. More on that later in the show. Moving forward to talk some college football playoff bracket finalization. Jimbo Fisher critical of the seeding being an issue this year in the postseason.
It's like everything. There's going to be flaws when it first comes out because it's a new system. But I know what they're trying to do with the other conferences and give them top seeds, making conference championships relevant. But I think they're becoming a little bit irrelevant, as crazy as that sounds, because of the playoff. And I don't think people understood that was what was going to happen with the consequences of having a bigger playoff. I think that's what screwed the seed. Of what they have now, the seeding is not right. And that's what the problem is. There's some teams that have had significant years that have a much tougher road to the finals than teams who didn't. And that's never the right way, but we have an imperfect system.
Former college football head coach Jimbo Fisher. We talked a little bit about it with Curtis Riggs, but Penn State and Texas, you look at the brackets based on their matchups, a game at home, and then a neutral site contest against a non-traditional power school, Arizona State or Boise State. Regardless, it is a pretty favorable road for both Penn State and for Texas in the college football playoff, while Oregon, the top seed in the whole thing, likely to see Ohio State right off the jump. That likely could be a national championship matchup, and it'll happen before the semifinals. It'll be a quarterfinal matchup if Ohio State beats Tennessee to face off with Oregon. Other college football, pro football news, Bill Belichick apparently serious about maybe dipping down to the college football ranks. He's still talking with the University of North Carolina. Here's Nick Saban on the fit there.
Bill's an outstanding coach. He's very well organized. He's a good teacher. I think he relates well with the players. So I think he would do a great job in college. The only thing that would be different is recruiting. But as you say, relationship building is not as important. Not that Bill wouldn't be good at that. Is not as important now that you pay players. I think it becomes a little bit more about, the money and the deal that you make with them. So it is a little bit more like pro football. So, and I think Bill knows how to manage that and would do a good job. So it doesn't surprise me when you have a coach of his caliber, quality, consistency, and success for a lot of years that it wouldn't be somebody that people would consider.
That's Nick Saban, coaching legend, talking about coaching legend Bill Belichick possibly taking the University of North Carolina football job. Initially, when I saw that news, I said, man, I don't know how that's going to work. The transfer portal, kids getting NIL deals, Bill Belichick, the grump down there talking and relating to college football players. I'm not so sure if it worked. But you know what? The more I've stewed on it, the more I've thought about it. Hear me out here in regards to Bill Belichick. Over the course of 10, 15, 20 years at the Post up in Foxborough, he established something that we like to call the Patriot Way. Some people out there might call him the Cheatriots. That's a different story. But he had that entire franchise absorbed and bought into the way that he and the staff did things. And it didn't matter who the OC was. It didn't matter who the wide receivers were, the cornerbacks, the linebackers, the kicker, the punter, the quarterback. Yes, Tom Brady was who made them go. That is great and without a doubt certain. But that Patriot Way was real. It was a turnstile of guys leaving for bigger, better opportunities, and they brought in whoever to catch passes, whoever to make tackles, whoever to punt it through, kick it through the uprights, and it worked year after year after year. That Patriot Way was established. Now, if you're Bill Belichick and you're looking around the National Football League and you might have a 5-year deal, 3-year deal, 5-year deal to turn it around immediately with a bad football team or a football team that certainly is looking to turn the page, start a new chapter of their foundation and where they want to go moving forward. How easy would it be for Bill Belichick to establish that Patriot Way, bought in no matter what culture in the National Football League? With a potential young quarterback, maybe a veteran quarterback, that'll probably be pretty tough, depending upon where you go. Just about everywhere, you got to start from ground zero, bring the people you want to bring in. It might take some time, but in college football, if he goes to UNC, and he's got his son on staff, which apparently is a pretty important part of that formula, he can work his way around the transfer portal, recruit the kids that he wants, get them into the program, get them bought in, and lo and behold, you got a really great machine there. Patriot Way be damned. They could move forward, and that could be a pretty formidable program in no time if it is done the right way. Not professional, sure, but the NIL will be different. But I would assume if Belichick takes the job that he will probably have a lot of other people helping and working through the tough part of college football and the landscape now, the year-round calendar, the year-round recruitment of your existing roster and your future roster. Maybe it's not that crazy to have Bill Belichick in the college football world. End of speech there. FCS playoffs over the weekend. South Dakota State over Montana 35-18 and USD over Tarleton State. Close ball game throughout, but the Yotes the better team on Saturday 42-31. USD 10-2. SDSU 11-2. Coming up on Saturday, SDSU is home to Incarnate Word. Second time those two programs have faced off in Brookings this year. That gets going at 11 o'clock on ESPN. And UC Davis is inside the Dakota Dome Saturday at 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Get your tickets. GoJacks.com, GoYotes.com. Other two matchups in the FCS playoffs. Standalone game on Friday, Idaho at Montana State, 8 o'clock on ESPN. And on Saturday, latest game of the day, 2:30, Mercer visiting North Dakota State, the top seed, the 2 seed, ABC, the TV coverage. And on Saturday, do not forget about it, Army-Navy from Landover, Maryland, 2 o'clock on CBS. Finishing up the scorecard Saturday for women's basketball, USD picked up a win over Northern Arizona, 84-79, and SDSU also won out in Montana against the Grizzlies, 78-70. And yesterday, Iowa State over CMU, 82-56, and Nebraska hands Minnesota their first loss of the season, 84-65. Saturday finals on the men's side, USD lost to Northern Arizona, 95-82. The Yotes are 7-4, and South Dakota State men won against Eastern Washington, 74-53. Jackrabbits are 8-3. Yesterday continued to be a tough stretch for the Kansas Jayhawks. They fall again as the number one team in the country goes down in the second consecutive game. They just got done losing to Creighton last week, and they could not fend off Missouri yesterday.
They'll bounce it in. Missouri will hold it. Bill Self comes down, shakes the hand of the head coach, waves to the rest. Kansas heads, and here comes the students. Folks, Missouri's done it for just the 5th time in school history. Missouri knocks off the number one team in the nation. And for the 4th time, it just happens to be the Kansas Jayhawks. Our final in Como, 76-67.
Learfield with the audio, 76-67, the final. Kansas now 7-2. Elsewhere, Iowa State over Jackson State, 100-58. Cyclone men are 7-1. And in case you missed it over the weekend, Augustana is now 9-7 on the campaign. Split with Fairbanks. They won on Friday 3-1, lost on Saturday 2-1. They've got Anchorage for a pair of games Thursday and Friday night. Both of those games get going at 10 p.m. Central Time. Let's dive into your Reliabank headlines of the day, and we start with South Dakota State Jackrabbit football. Mark Gronowski had 2 passing, 2 rushing touchdowns to make it 4 total to help South Dakota State move on with a 35-18 win over Montana on Saturday, and winning the rematch between the two teams. They ended the Montana season with a 9-5 record. SDSU moves on to host Incarnate Word, the number 6 seed in the quarterfinals, 11 o'clock on Saturday. Those two met back in early September in the home opener for the Jackrabbits. That final that day, 45-24, different teams, different season. We're now in the postseason, believe it or not. Different football going on. Incarnate Word, though, the 6th seed battling the Jackrabbits coming up on Saturday, 11 o'clock start time. 3 interceptions and 28 points in the second half lifted 4th-seeded USD to their 10th win of the season and sends the team into the quarterfinals of the NCAA FCS playoffs, 42-31. The final score over 13th-seeded and a very feisty Tarleton State Texan team. Second straight season that USD is moving on. High-scoring affair started with both teams scoring on each of their first 2 possessions on Saturday afternoon inside the Dakota Dome. Texans led it at the break 21-14. USD missed a buzzer-beating field goal at the break. 21-14, cause for concern, yes, but they stayed the course. The defense takes the football away 3 times, and the offense remained unstoppable for USD. Several big efforts. They kept the quarterback clean. We'll break down that win and what's ahead for USD Coyote football at the end of the hour with Coach Bob Nielson on the show today. Continuing with your Reliabank headlines of the day for hour number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs did it again. Clinched their 9th straight AFC West Division title last night, but none of the first 8 were quite like this one. The 12-1 Chiefs had yet another game come down to the finish, and as always so far in this most unusual of seasons, they made the play to win it. Third-string kicker Matthew Wright, a replacement for 2 injured players, made a 31-yard field goal as time ran out to allow the Chiefs to beat the Chargers 19-17. Afterward, the Chiefs wore their AFC West Championships hats and T-shirts, and they always do after clinching the division. Other than that, nothing about it felt familiar. The Chiefs might well see the Chargers or another division rival, the Broncos, in the playoffs this year. Here's what quarterback Patrick Mahomes had to say. First goal every single year is to win the AFC West. We are in a lot of rivalries where everybody's played each other tough, and 3 teams probably going to make the playoffs. That speaks to the division that we play in. The Chiefs lead the Buffalo Bills and the Steelers, both 10-3 by 2 games at this point. Likely the number 1 seed in the AFC. Statement win last night, and another close one for Kansas City. They get the job done. Well, now we got the big deal that we were all looking for Juan Soto. He is not leaving New York, but he is leaving the New York Yankees. Superstar outfielder agreed with the New York Mets on a 15-year, $765 million contract, according to ESPN last night. That is the largest deal in pro sports history. The deal includes an opt-out after 5 years and no deferred money. If Soto chooses not to opt out, his deal will go up $4 million per year from $51 to $55 million for the remainder of the contract, meaning the total value could exceed $800 million for Juan Soto. The contract also includes $75 million in the form of a signing bonus. What does this do for the New York Mets? Of course it makes them better. Just how much better remains to be seen, but the Mets have vaulted up the odds to win the World Series at sportsbooks, leapfrogging the Yankees with the addition of superstar Juan Soto. The Mets World Series odds moved from plus 1,200 to plus 750 last night at ESPN Bet. Mets are still behind the Dodgers at plus 375. The Braves are also neck and neck with New York at plus 750 right now to win next year's World Series. There'll be a lot more to dive into from the baseball world as we move forward in regards to that contract that could be worth $800 million. Was talking to a baseball interested coworker this morning about the overall contract status. We were saying 2026, 2027, there will be a $1 billion sports contract and could be earlier than that, just depending upon what kind of phenom superstars we see move forward. Likely to be baseball, of course, but that is an $800 million contract at peak value. Won't be long. We just saw Shohei go north of 7. We just saw Soto go high 7s, low 8s, and we will wait and see just how long it'll take to get to $1 billion sports contract. Perhaps the next biggest deal in MLB free agency will be given to hard-throwing Japanese right-handed pitcher Roki Sasaki. He was posted to the Major League Baseball teams and will be available to sign as a free agent as soon as Tuesday at 5 o'clock. The Chiba Lotte Marines said on November 9th that they plan to make the 23-year-old available, but waited until less than a week before the end of the posting period. So he's available to sign as a free agent from Tuesday through 5 Eastern on January the 23rd. So a limited window here. He'll get a mega deal before too long. Shohei agreed to join the Angels in December 2016 at the age of 23. He received a $2.3 million signing bonus. Ohtani's salary is pretty modest back in that day, but now Roki Sasaki, the new hot name across Major League Baseball that you need to know about. Those are your ReliaBank headlines of the day. As always, for a better local banking option, check them out at ReliaBank.com. We take the break, come back with the latest from the National Football League. The Minnesota Vikings keep on winning. The reason for those wins. Could it be Aaron Jones? Could it be the elite play of the receivers? Could it be TJ Hawkinson back in the lineup? A good defense? All of the above. Sam Darnold, a big factor in that as well. We will debate with you. You want to weigh in? 605-362-3776. What kind of credence and belief are you giving in J.J. McCarthy next year? Would you like to see the team try pretty darn hard to bring back Sam Darnold? I think they should in Minnesota. We'll dive into that coming up next on Overtime.
ESPN Sioux Falls gets you back to more of Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Moving right along on this Monday, December 9th edition of Overtime. I'm ready to go the rounds with you Vikings fans out there. I'm not talking bad about your team, but I do want to hear from you right now. 605-362-3776. The Minnesota Vikings are 11-2. There are a lot of reasons why they're good this year. Kevin O'Connell should be the coach of the year, if not on the very short list to be winning that award. Sam Darnold has been way better than advertised and expected. I don't care how big of a homer you are. Not a whole lot of people thought that he would be this good, throw for 5 touchdowns in a game, 4 touchdowns in a game, lead several big comebacks, gotta have it moments this year. Sam Darnold been pretty darn special. The Minnesota Vikings also have gotten a boost from Aaron Jones. The running game, the defense has been good. The receivers have also played very well. That's not a surprise. They're top tier, probably the best tandem in the National Football League, right up there with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and several other dynamic duos around the league. But my question is, and I would love to hear from you, in regards to the Vikings quarterback situation. Yes, we'll be talking with Dustin Baker on Thursday about this very topic. 605-362-3776. Sam Darnold signed a 1-year, $10 million deal to be part of the team this year. It was clear-cut what his job was. Sam, welcome in. We love you. We think you're great. You're going to be our 1-year guy, maybe not that long until we can get J.J. McCarthy off and running. And we know what happened with J.J. McCarthy's injury. But Sam Darnold has come in, he's answered the call, become the starter, held into the placeholder role, and then started winning football games and was an MVP candidate earlier this year. He cooled down a bit, had a couple games down the stretch, but lately has been playing pretty darn well. So my question now is, Should the Minnesota Vikings today, tomorrow, or in the very near future sign Sam Darnold to a contract extension to either compete for or be the starting quarterback next year and perhaps in 2026? Oh my gosh, I'm crazy. We just drafted a first-round quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. But my question is, Sam Darnold this year is insanely affordable. 1 year, $10 million. If you can get him back on a team-friendly deal, why would you not do that? Because I know that McCarthy is a first-round quarterback, a first-round talent, and there's certain Vikings folks that absolutely love the dude and think he's going to go on and be amazing. That's great. But Sam Darnold already is playing pretty well. And if you can guarantee yourself some playoff football next year or playoff caliber quarterback play next year, why would you not sign up for that? Give J.J. McCarthy more time to sit and learn and be around a quarterback guru in Kevin O'Connell. What do you think about that? Because 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, it was crazy. 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, we were saying there's nothing Sam Darnold can do to save his job. It's J.J. McCarthy's team next year. Why can't it be both? Why can't next year be another year of Darnold with the expectation that McCarthy will be ready in 2026, 2027, the old Green Bay Packers model? You got a good option and a cheap option. You perhaps have a good option and cheap option on a rookie deal as well, but you don't know that commodity. Weigh in right now, 605-362-3776. The Vikings, by the way, have the 6th most cap space this offseason, $78 million. So if you want to fork over $30 million, $35, $40 million to get Sam Darnold on a 2-year extension, and a big out after next year if things don't go well or if McCarthy is that dude and you're ready for him, that makes too much sense to me. You can argue with me right now, 605-362-3776. I think that should be in consideration for the Minnesota Vikings right now. Not Daniel Jones, but Sam Darnold, year extension, maybe a 2-year extension with a team-friendly out after 2025. Who says no to that deal? Could be the Minnesota Vikings, but right now, today, I got to tell you, he's the reason, one of the reasons they're winning. And if you can guarantee that caliber of play week in and week out for next year, I wouldn't let him hit the open market and go somewhere else and star elsewhere. Although, again, a lot has to do with the circumstances. Good offensive line, great receiving core, great head coach, Sam Darnold, 1 year, $10 million deal and paying dividends already. Should the Vikings sign him back today, tomorrow, or in the near future? Other NFL news, Coach Kyle Shanahan says he's not going anywhere. In the days leading up to the Niners' destruction of the Bears on Sunday, internet chatter about Shanahan's future in San Francisco began to spread. One of the wildest ideas put forth was that Shanahan should be traded to the Bears in the offseason to restock the Niners' lot of draft picks and give the Bears a long-term answer at head coach after firing Matt Eberflus. Shanahan said, "I don't want to be any place in the world more than here. My family feels just as strong, if not a lot stronger. I hope you guys are going to have to kick me out of this place." So there you go. It's been kiboshed. And again, it's not completely up to him. It would be John Lynch in the Niners front office, but Lynch also crumpled that bit of drama up and threw it away earlier in the week. Other news from the National Football League, former Minnesota Golden Gopher Antoine Winfield Jr. left Sunday's win over the Raiders with a knee injury, and the team is set to play without him for a while. Head coach Todd Bowles said in a Monday press conference that Winfield is going to be out, quote, a little while because of the injury. Winfield played just 16 snaps yesterday. And lastly here, as we're talking NFL and what's made this season so special, I want to talk about Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Aaron Jones. 4 running backs that changed teams this offseason, and all 4 have been great, if not elite, this season. Saquon Barkley is just 483 yards away from Eric Dickerson's record of 2,105 yards in a single season. That was 16 games back in 1984, also occurred on this day in sports history. Barkley needs 483 yards in the final 4 games of the season to break the record. That's an average of just 121 yards a game. Can it be done? Yes. Have we seen people get close? Adrian Peterson and others and come just short, running out of gas down the stretch? Yes, we've seen that as well. If I had to guess, I think Barkley can and will get the job done. 483 yards is what he needs to eclipse that long-standing record since 1984. 84. We take the break, come back with the good, the bad, and the ugly next on Overtime. Before long, we're talking USD Coyote football with head coach Bob Nielson. Yotes are moving on with a win over Tarleton State. They got UC Davis coming up on Saturday. Excited for that chat already. That's on the other side of the good, the bad, and the ugly as we move forward in this Monday edition of Overtime right here on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO.
Get ESPN with grab your phone or call us up on your smart device. Now let's get you back to Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO.
Right back with you on this Monday edition of Overtime. Time now for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? You can ditch feeling bad, say so long, to feeling ugly and start to feel good again with Game Day Men's Health. Start your journey back to you today. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Good news for college football broadly. Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham announced yesterday that he will return as the program's head coach for a 21st season next year. I'm back, Whittingham said in a statement posted on Utah football's Twitter account, which mimicked Michael Jordan's return announcement to the NBA in 1995. The 65-year-old said 2 weeks ago that he was unsure whether he would opt to return as the Utes head coach for another year. Now moving forward, Whittingham hired back in 2004. He has since posted a 167-86 record as head coach. He is tied for the second longest tenured coach in the FBS behind only Iowa's Kirk Ferentz. Other good news, Alabama Athletic Director Greg Burns said on Sunday that he would need to assess his non-conference scheduling philosophy moving forward after the Crimson Tide were the first team left out of the 12-team college football playoff field. In a post to Twitter, Burns said he was, quote, disappointed with the outcome and acknowledged the losses to 500 teams, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, as two games in particular that we did not perform as well as we should have. But he also added that non-conference scheduling is an area that he would like to have evaluated. We've said that we need to see how strength of schedule would be evaluated by the college football playoff. With this outcome, we'll need to assess how many Power 4 non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the CFP. That is not good for college football. But you look at Alabama, Georgia, any SEC team over the last 10 years. This week 10, week 9, 10, 11 game that they always schedule against the Citadel or Mercer or Western Kentucky or whoever it might be, it's usually an FCS program. Matter of fact, this year it was Mercer for Alabama. How can that possibly help your program's resume? Down the stretch, you take care of business in the SEC, it stacks another win. That's great, but it's non-conference. I don't understand how you are arguing the fact is lack of strength of schedule because you consistently schedule FCS programs very late in the season. It's an oddity. Needs to go away. Schedule an FBS school or schedule another conference game. Every other conference is playing a complete schedule. SEC a little bit lighter. I don't know if that is the reason they got out. I think the reason that they were out is because SMU lost to Clemson. The other way around, I would say Clemson out, Bama in. But here we are. Today, Clemson wins. They get in. SMU, deserving team. Better team than Bama? Probably not on a neutral field. But a more deserving team? Probably this season for SMU. That's the latest there from the AD in Tuscaloosa. Class of 2025 quarterback Chase Herbstreit, who is the son of former Ohio State quarterback Kirk Herbstreit, has committed to Michigan. As of yesterday afternoon, Herbstreit will join the Wolverines on scholarship as the second quarterback in this year's class alongside five-star passer and number 1 overall prospect Bryce Underwood. So Herbstreit is spurning his dad's team to join the bitter rival. That's going to be interesting. At least Thanksgiving is over, but you'll have to answer that over some turkey or some ham around Christmas time. But I'm sure Kirk Herbstreit, classy guy, going to be happy. I want to see my son succeed no matter where he goes. But Kirk Herbstreit's son, Chase, will be playing at the University of Michigan for at least one season. Other good news, Chris Paul glanced up as a rookie in a game in Utah and read the words, John Stockton, all-time steals and assist leader. I'm going to catch him. He thought back then, only to realize later That was a lie. Still nearly 2 decades later, Paul remains on the chase after surpassing Jason Kidd on Sunday with a career assist number 12,092 to move into second place behind Stockton in career assists during San Antonio's win over New Orleans. Paul reached the milestone with his third assist of the night, directed to Victor Wembanyama with 7 minutes to go in the first half for a 25-foot three. Got a long way to go, but Chris Paul's second all-time in career assists. Bad news, the Blackhawks placed goaltender Peter Mrazek on injured reserve yesterday with a left groin injury. He'll miss a significant amount of time. And lastly, ugly news, we highlighted the name Pop Isaacs for you last week. He was part of a big upset for the Creighton Blue Jays over Kansas. He's going to miss the remainder of the season after undergoing hip surgery. He'll miss the rest of the season, according to head coach Greg McDermott over the weekend. That is the latest news and the good, the bad, and the ugly from around the sports world. It's all good coming up next. We're talking USD Coyote football. Yotes get the test, but keep on dancing after a win against Tarleton State. Final score 42-31. We break down that game, talk about UC Davis and how important it is for you, Yote fans, to be in the Dome on Saturday. That's next on Overtime.
Get ESPN with the free app and online. Grab your phone or call us up on your smart device. Now let's get you back to Overtime with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO.
Right back with you, set to round out this Monday edition of Overtime. Both of our South Dakota-based FCS college football programs still dancing. South Dakota State wins over Montana, and USD wins at home, defends the Dome in December against the Tarleton State Texans. A big, resilient victory. Second half, really the key. Couple big turnovers down the stretch. 3 interceptions of the Tarleton State quarterback, the big difference in the game. USD head football coach Bob Nielson joins us right now on the ESPN hotline. Coach, welcome back to the show. How you doing this week?
Doing good.
Coach, we're excited to talk to you. 42-31, and again, stats can only tell so much of the story. You talk about teams coming in hungry. Tarleton State was that way. They led 7-0, 14-7, 21-14. It was a battle throughout the first half and continued into the second half. What did you and the staff and the team take away from the victory? An 11-point victory, but a hard-fought game to open up the postseason.
Well, guys had to battle. That first half, it was back and forth, 4 possessions, and it was 14-14. And, they scored again to go up 21-14 right before half. And so coming out of half, we knew we were going to have to get some stops and obviously continue to play well offensively. And the fact that we were able to generate some turnovers, that offense is a very unique style of offense and had us on our heels a little bit in the first half. But the second half, forcing the turnovers really made a big difference in the game.
Talk to us a little bit about the difference and the messaging to the defensive unit, because it's got to be pretty frustrating. You go out there, you give up a touchdown. You go out there again, another touchdown. And as was kind of the theme of that first half, Tarleton State, frankly, kind of was at will in that first half of the game. What was the internal messaging like after each one of those drives, and what led to the second half pressure that ended up delivering the 3 interceptions that frankly changed the game?
Well, you just keep talking about next series. Next series, understanding that we were moving the ball well offensively, and every stop was going to be important. And we didn't really change a lot at halftime. We were trying to stop the run with just our front guys and play more people in coverage. And as a result, we did a decent job stopping the run all day and got them into situations where they had to pass, and our secondary did a good job of closing some of those windows and generating some turnovers.
We're talking USD Coyote football with head coach Bob Nielson. Yotes win at 42-31 against Tarleton State in round number 2 of the FCS playoffs. They move on to face UC Davis. That game Saturday, 2 o'clock on ESPN+. If you can't make it out to the Dome, tickets available right now. GoYotes.com to secure your seats in the stands. As far as your offense, coach, 42 points. You mentioned that was part of the confident approach. There was no panic because although the defense was struggling at times, figuring it out early early on against the Texans. The offense kept moving the ball, 42 points. How pleased were you with the offensive effort on Saturday?
Well, we were pretty consistent. We just punted the ball twice, both in the second half, which defensively we responded by getting turnovers after those possessions. But otherwise, we moved the ball, had a good mix. I thought our run game was pretty consistent all day and made some big plays through the air. They're a pressure defensive team, and so you got to pop some big plays from time to time, and we were able to do that and control the ball at the end of the game once we got the lead.
Talking USD Coyote football with head coach Bob Nielson. Again, a win over Tarleton State, 42-31. They'll meet up with UC Davis coming up on Saturday, 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Coach, your quarterback, strong and steady and efficient, 18 of 22, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, and perhaps most importantly in the game, really clean pocket throughout the contest. I felt like the offensive line did a great job. No sacks and not a whole lot of pressure on Aiden Bauman back there in the pocket this weekend.
It was a good day up front for our O-line. We averaged 7 yards carry running the football and gave up no sacks on the day. And when we needed to throw, Aiden had time to be able to distribute the ball. And, he's playing very efficiently, both in terms of his ability to get us into good plays at the line of scrimmage and when we're asking him to throw and distribute the ball. And that's another performance that we can continue to build on moving forward.
213 yards passing, 296 yards rushing, 2 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns in the win for USD. I wanted to talk defense a little bit. They did not allow a sack either, they being Tarleton State. Mikey's Grace, arguably the best player on your defensive side, defensive player of the year for the MVFC. You have a tendency with really good players, even though they can't rack up the interceptions if they're a DB or the sacks if they're a defensive lineman, they're still going to impact the game. And that's what we saw with Mikey's Grace. He had a total of 7 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a breakup. Heard around the world late in the game. Huge play. Talk about the play and the overall performance of Mikey's Grace on Saturday.
Well, another good game. He's played very consistently. I've talked about this a lot during the year. He's gone from a year ago being more of a pass rush specialist to a guy that is a tremendous every down player. Our front guys, we were really using our front guys to stop their run game. And so they ended up with a lot of tackles. Both he and Blake Holden, one of our defensive interior guys, along with Nick Gaze, were at the top of the tackle chart, which is usually not typical for a game to have those interior linemen be at the top. And we'll need to lean on guys this week again as we play another really good offensive team in Cal Davis.
Perfect transition into the Aggies. They come into the Dakota Dome with a record of 11-2. One of the losses was at Cal, a FBS program. The other one, very close loss to the number 1 seed in the playoff field, Montana State, 30-28. This team has played a ton of close games this year and really quality opponent that you'll see coming up on Saturday. What stands out about UC Davis to you, Coach?
Well, they got a lot of experience. Got one of the best players in the Big Sky Conference, and the running back who was player of the year in that league a year ago, and an experienced quarterback. And so they've got a balanced attack with run game and pass game. They are going to want to give you a lot of formational looks, make it really difficult for you defensively to adjust to all of those looks and schemes. And then, defensively, again, a very experienced team. They got good size and physicality, and certainly part of the key on Saturday will be our ability to move the ball with consistency against their defense.
And there's a lot of keys to the ball game. Again, UC Davis, USD from the Dakota Dome, 2 o'clock on ESPN+. You can secure your tickets to see it in person down in Vermilion, GoYotes.com. Lastly, Coach, obviously a big home field advantage, the Dakota Dome. It was loud for you on Saturday. I anticipate it to be even louder coming up this Saturday. Just to comment on the fans and how important they are at this stage of the postseason for your team's success.
Yeah, the fans were a big part. Got loud in the second half when we needed them too, and good support. We need that kind of crowd again this week against a really good team, and hopefully we can get as many, if not more, into the Dakota Dome on Saturday.
It's a tremendous matchup. UC Davis, the 5 seed, USD as well in this postseason chase. We can't wait for that one Saturday, 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Go Yotes.com to secure your tickets right now. That's longtime head coach Bob Nielson. Coach, congrats on the continued success and hope to continue that with you next week here on the show. Thanks as always for the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
That's USD Coyote head football coach Bob Nielson here. On the Monday edition of the show, we're going to be talking SDSU Jackrabbits. They've got a matchup coming up in Brookings on Saturday against Incarnate Word. That is the 3-6 matchup. And this matchup we're going to see coming up on Saturday, 4th-seeded USD and 5-seed UC Davis. More about the Aggie program, because you look at their schedule, it is hard to come away anything but impressed in what they've been able to do. Open the season at California. We talked about that lopsided effort in terms of the FBS competition. 31-13, the final. They rebound by running off win after win after win after win. They didn't lose until just a couple weeks ago, mid-November against Montana State. But along the way, wins over Southern Utah, Utah Tech, 5th-rated Idaho, 28-26. Another close game against Portland State, Eastern Washington, stacking wins throughout. They handled Montana in Missoula to the tune of a 30-14 win. To be fair, in the loss to Montana State, the Bobcats dominated that contest just about start to finish. Couple late touchdowns made that pretty close, but 30-28, the final score in that ball game. Montana State the win. That was UC Davis's lone FCS loss of the season. They took care of business last week of the season at Sac State with a 42-39 win, and last week, dominant effort over Illinois State, 42-10 the final score. And in that game, a 21-point second quarter really was the difference. They led it 28-10 at half and then put up 14 more in the fourth quarter. And you look at the tendencies, look at the strengths of UC Davis. You got to start in that backfield. Landleris in the back this past week, 22 carries for 105 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Miles Hastings, the aforementioned experienced quarterback, 403 yards passing. So there's not going to be a way to shut down the pass and shut down the run on Saturday. You're going to have to pick your poison and try to create some pressure, create some turnovers, which USD proved themselves capable of doing against Tarleton State, although the Texans at times, like we said in the first half, could not be stopped offensively. It was kind of a slow-paced, methodical, eat-up-the-passing yardage kind of game for Tarleton State. We'll see what UC Davis brings to the fold, but they're 11-2 on the season. Several impressive wins. And when you look at the stats offensively, Landleris, the running back, 1,471 yards, 17 touchdowns, and he is slow and steady, 5.1 yards per carry. Yes, that's a good number, but at this stage, you look for the explosive number, the 6, 7, 8 yards per carry. This guy can eat up the yards, the tough yards, the gritty yards, over 109 yards per game this season for the running back for UC Davis. That game is a 2 o'clock go time coming up on Saturday. Do not miss out on your opportunity to get out and see that team in person once again. It'll be the final home game, win, loss, or draw for USD. So no excuse not to make it out to the Dome. Be loud and support the Yotes. 2 o'clock start time. Go Yotes.com for your tickets right now. If you absolutely positively can't make it, be sure to tune in along the Coyote Sports Network from Learfield or watch the game on ESPN+. That is our conversation with head coach Bob Nielson, and that's our show today on a Monday. Always goes by fast to kick off the week. We're back with you tomorrow. We're talking all sorts of things, including Iowa football, who they've got in the bowl game, remarks on the season so far and how it's gone, transfer portal losses, everything you need to know from an Iowa Hawkeye perspective. Sean Bach set to join us in hour number 2 on tomorrow's edition of Overtime. 11-1 tomorrow. We'll talk to you then right here on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO.